Record. Cool. Okay. What is good, GNG Nation? We are here, recording distancing, social distancing, even though restrictions have eased a bit. Doesn't mean everything is back to normal. I'm here with Cloyd. Pat is out and about, so don't snitch. Don't get him arrested. We're here on a lovely Saturday morning, having a chat. And, we decided to not do a live stream, but to really just try and record and post on our Spotify and YouTube. And so here we are. How's it going, Cloyd?
It's doing well. Enjoying working from home.
Same, bro.
What about you, man?
Working from home? Nah, don't. No, we're working from home, don't worry.
We are working.
Yeah, working hard.
I'm a soldier at home, man.
Yeah, man. This is just hard work here. Hard work. Yeah. Anyway. Ever since quarantine has started, The Last Dance has been on every Monday. And, if you have watched it, it mainly discusses about Jordan and basically the Chicago Bulls team. And we all know with Michael Jordan, he had a duo, and it was probably the most iconic duos to ever play in the NBA, and that's Scottie Pippen and MJ. And they also had a big three. Don't get me wrong, with Horace Grant in the first three-peat, and then Dennis Rodman for the second three-peat. So in terms of trios and duos, we'll start off with trios first. Cloyd, who is we've seen trios, win in the past. For example, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, who else? Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, the Lakers in the 80s. Who are the teams, however, that had a trio and never won? Who was the biggest trio in your mind that was underachieved and never won a championship? I already know what you're gonna say in this one.
Well, the one that hits home the most is my beloved, my
hometown.
The team that I'm not from America. No, but the one team that I actually wanted to win was the Oklahoma City Thunder, where in 2012 with KD, Russ, and James Harden. And when they lost, they made it all the way to the finals to lose to Miami Heat with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, which is pretty sad because the following year, James Harden decided to leave.
Oh, it wasn't his own fault. He got traded.
Still,
he did force it on himself by, demanding a lot of money. So it is tough.
It's hard, just because they never bounced back from that after, because then everyone decided to leave. Like, every great player in the Oklahoma City franchise decided to leave right after that.
Hey, you got Chris Paul now.
Yeah, but I'm not going for OKC anymore, bro. I moved to the East.
Moved to the East, play for Boston.
Look, you know how much I love the Oklahoma City Thunder. Look at that. That's Seattle Supersonics, baby.
For those listening on Spotify, he's wearing a Seattle Supersonics hat. That's why he's a big fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder. You reckon if they stayed in Seattle, they would have won?
I mean, I don't really know much about Oklahoma, but a lot of people know about Seattle. So maybe the franchise there was better, but they decided they wanted to sell to a bigger investor, then that's up to them. I don't know if the Seattle Supersonics, like when they had all of their players like, Sean Kemp, They had Gary Payton
Yeah.
and all that. Like they were such a big franchise, especially in the '90s. But after that, it started to die down. We didn't have much big names. We only had Kevin Durant, and then Russell Westbrook joined. But then as soon as he joined, they changed it to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Mm. I would have loved to see James Harden in the Seattle SuperSonics. Like imagine him wearing that not that current day one, but like the '90s jersey, this '90s Sonics
The
jersey.
white one with like
Yeah,
the Seattle
yeah,
tower.
like
Oh, that was nice.
that bubble text rather than that little skinny text.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him in that. That would have been awesome. Like, but yeah, because he wasn't in Seattle at that time, eh? They were already in Oklahoma.
Well, they when he got drafted, Seattle SuperSonics drafted him,
Yeah.
but then just before he started, he went straight into Oklahoma City uniform.
Do you reckon if James Harden did stay, you reckon they would have won a championship?
Um, I guess he would, but it depends on how the management would keep him. Like rather than having him as a sixth man, put him on the starting five, for example, because they want he like the what's it called the point difference from the opposing team to their team when James Harden was on was quite higher, and he had more minutes and all that. But I think um, if he was kept on as a sixth man, egos would have changed, and um, like unlike what's his name, Lou Will, who knows he should be a sixth man. If he didn't know his place and he wanted more from it, if he wanted to be a starting five, then it would have probably gone worse, depending on how the management set it up. Because like we discussed before, he requested a lot more money to rejoin rather than being you know traded, and
Yeah,
then he ended up getting traded eventually. But at the end of it, if they did give him the money and they wanted him, and they gave him like the power to be in the starting five, then they could have possibly won.
mm. Yeah, true. I think that was a pretty sad way to end that big three, especially because
Yeah, it was also like a big four because of Surge,
yeah. And they even had like Jeff Green at the time. It was still pretty good. Like he was.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind him. I would count him there as well. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I think the thought that comes into my mind when that big three comes up is two things. Is the final, I think, like final minutes of the finals where they're just like on the bench, just like looking like just sad.
yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, we lost this and all that. I was like, oh man, that's tough because they were young. They were like kids. They were still kids.
yeah. Yeah, Katie was like under 25, I think, at the time.
He wasn't even in his prime yet.
Yeah, and we were just like, whoa, what the heck? He's carrying a whole team, and then Ross, with like minimal years of experience in a professional league,
Yeah,
was just carrying it as a point guard. But you know, um, experience beat talent at that time, kind of thing.
yeah, and that's why I think Oklahoma City, if they kept all that, I think those three, I think they would have won at least one or two
Yeah, 100%.
had they stick together for like 3 more years. Um, yeah, and then the second memory is that meme with the pizza rolls. That's do you remember that?
Pizza rolls.
Where like James Harden sticks his tongue out every time and he's got like that I don't remember. It was like all this like every time Oklahoma City had that like stuck their tongue out, there was always this meme that was circling around about like, oh, Mama made pizza rolls.
Oh, yeah. And they're like, yeah, I remember that. And everyone's like full hyped up. They're like,
Yeah,
ah.
it was like I don't know where that came from, but that's just so random. And I don't know how that became a lasting thought in my head as to that was the big three. Maybe because I'm hungry, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was one of the most underachieving. I wouldn't say underachieving. I think for the age would be. I think they did well.
Yeah.
I think who really underachieved, but is the Clippers' big three with Chris
Ooh.
Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. Like even
Yeah.
then, you could add JJ Redick in there as well. Just to
That was Lob City.
yeah, and like did they make it? They made it to Western Conference Finals yet, or was it just second round?
I'm pretty sure they made it to Western Conference Finals. But 100% they did go past to second round or something like that.
Yeah,
Up to second round. But yeah, like that team, there was so much hype wrapped around those three especially. And I think like those two fit Chris Paul perfectly.
mm.
It was just Lob City, as like their team was literally called Lob City. Um and I think at that same time it was just so much hype because I think Blake Griffin just won slam dunk
Yeah,
contest, and there were just so much highlights of not even Chris Paul lobbing it, but I remember the Jamal Crawford when he's
under the
running
Knicks.
like ahead of Blake Griffin, and he does the underleg lob,
Yeah,
the between the legs lob, and then you just see Blake Griffin just windmill it, and I'm like, fuck, man.
yeah. And they still had a pretty decent bench. I think it was just and a decent coach too in Doc Rivers.
Yeah, Doc Rivers.
Like for them not to, I guess, go not even touch the finals is pretty weird, pretty like underachieving, and also for the most part, like they never really went deep into the playoffs.
Oh yeah, true.
Like especially when Chris Paul is in his prime, like you and Blake Griffin, who I think
He was rookie of the year, wasn't he?
yeah he was rookie of the year and really just was a rising star. And then you had DeAndre Jordan who locked it down on defense and was another lob city option. Don't get
Yeah.
us wrong, he was athletic as well.
I still remember that poster he did on, was it
And like,
yeah, Brandon Knight. And everyone was just like, ooh, that was so
bro,
nasty.
every time I watch it, I always think, man, is like Brandon Knight okay? Is he dead? Okay.
He needs to retire.
Bro, he was like, not only did he get hit so hard, but he fell on the ground so hard too. It was like,
Yeah, it wasn't even like landing like that or like
yeah,
an angle. He landed flat, like
yeah.
he was adjacent to the ground before he landed.
It was like no one really. It was so weird because like you didn't know who to care for. Like, did you care about the dunk or did you care about Brendan Knight? Like that man died. Like a piece of his soul left at that dunk. Um, but yeah, in terms of underachieving, I think the big three of them was underachieving. Um, yeah, because they were up 3-1 as well at one point to the Rockets, and they blew that.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, and that was like they were about to win. I think they were about to win. Like they were about to win their fourth game, and then Rockets did a massive comeback to even, not to even up to Liverpool to do 3-2 to get it up to 3-2, and then they just lost it from there. I think, yeah, I think in my opinion that one was the worst. Just because OKC one, yeah, it was just age. I think it
Against
was.
yeah.
I don't think the big three like it did underachieve in a way, but it was more of a what if than like there was still more answers to be there was still more questions to be answered for the OKC Thunder, which I think they didn't get the chance to answer. Whereas the Clippers, I think they had all the talent in the world, a solid bench.
The
Even though it's a bit
experience as
aging,
well.
that bench with like Paul Pierce and who was the other one? There was another small forward, Grant Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a highly underachieving big three. And who knows? Maybe I'm just salty that Chris Paul didn't, go to the Lakers. But rest in peace, David Stern. Just saying.
I think like towards their end of that Lob City era, there was just so much happening amongst that team. Like DeAndre was supposed to go to Dallas,
Yeah.
but then he ended up staying, and then I think Chris Paul wanted out. He even had like what's his name? Blake Griffin had all these injuries coming in, and so it sort of disrupted like the flow of their like game towards the end. Like rather than continuing to gain the experience, they just decided to it started to crumble. But yeah, like it was hard, like especially because Paul Pierce was such an old veteran, and when he came in, there was so much hype around him, especially when he was in Brooklyn. Like
Yeah.
there was just so much hype around that as well. But yeah, and then at that same time with Doc Rivers, like didn't didn't Paul George
Oh.
Paul George full like cheat on his daughter or something like that.
Yeah, and you
So,
brought that up the other day, and you're like, oh yeah, he is coaching Paul George.
yeah, he's now the
The
coach of Paul
daughter?
George. What a weird time, you know?
Yeah, that must have been awkward. That must have been hella awkward. Uh, yeah. Oh, oh, that's tough. Just imagine like you come in first day, you're like, hey doc, how's your daughter doing?
remember me?
Oh yeah, I remember all of you.
Oh man, that's insane. I was just thinking about it. I was like, hang on, Paul George is not playing for Doc Rivers. Paul George is playing for his ex-fiance's father. Well, he could have been like his father-in-law.
Yeah, I know yeah, crazy, eh?
Yeah,
Crazy. But yeah, I think again, when you bring it back to Paul Pierce, because he just had a pretty decent season with the Wizards.
yeah,
And so I think everyone, when he reunited with Doc back in the Clippers, it was like, oh, maybe this starting five is pretty decent now with, JJ Redick and Paul Pierce and all that,
yeah.
solidifying that five. But yeah, I think, it was just, despite his age and all that, they still had, two, pe- two, two people who were either in their prime or about to be in their prime.
Yeah.
I mean, DeAndre Jordan, like, yeah, he's a good player, but he wasn't as crucial as Chris Paul and
Blake.
Blake. Yeah, so yeah, and I think I don't know. For me, it's just like I think there was always some drama that always happened within Clipperland. Like it was, I think there was like chemistry issues on the court sometimes,
Yeah.
especially, and they were like, always being ridiculed for like flopping and all that.
Oh yeah, that's so true. Eh? They
Like,
said they were called Flop City for like
yeah.
a brief moment.
So they always had this drama within the NBA, and that was just like, I don't know. I think it might have taken a toll on them. It was just bad.
I think like even though they were considered a good team or a great team, they still had to like run behind the shadows of Lakerland kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it definitely livened up the rivalry.
Mm.
Um, you know, but at the time the Lakers was shit, so yeah, didn't do as good. Anyway,
Which brings us to our next big three.
Just say it, bro. Just say it.
Do you want to say it? I'm pretty sure you want to say it.
Even though it's not a big three, it's technically a big four, which is it's even worse. But you know,
Well, the next big three is the best big three to never win a championship, which is Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, and Steve Nash.
nah.
You know what? If people still went for the Lakers during that season or that era, that just proves loyalty right there.
I hated that team. That team sucked. And so I had such high hopes too, because I was like, oh, Dwight Howard,
Yeah, right. I was like, man, this is gonna be crazy. I remember talking to Mike Lee. I'm like, man, I think we should be going for Lakers, man, because it's Kobe and Dwight and Steve Nash. And then
yeah.
Clee's
And at the time, Dwight Howard was the best center in the NBA. Compare him up with Kobe, who was just like about to end his prime. It was like, oh, okay, not bad. And then add Steve Nash, who was like, yeah, he was getting old. He was about 40 at that time, but like he could still play. He was like, oh yeah, he can still play.
Yeah, he didn't need to be athletic. He was still he still had the IQ, had the
he was still passing like crazy.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is not bad. And, he still had power. He still had our test and stuff like that. But god damn.
I think with that team there was so much high hopes, because I think at that time Dwight just he had a killer season. Like I think two seasons before he joined the Lakers in Orlando, and then he was still up there. Like Dwight Howard just won a Olympic gold medal. He was MVP, I think, wasn't he? No, he was Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
He brought the team all the way to the finals against the Lakers. But then, so when he joined, we were like, oh, here we go, It's like, it's going to be Lob City with Steve Nash. Like, that's going to be the new Lob City. He's just going to defend and rebound.
Now, you know what it was like? It was like, oh, we got Dwight. Man, this is going to be Kobe and Shaq 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, like, no. No, sir. No, sir.
It was like Kobe and Kwame 2.0.
Yeah, man, that was terrible. It was terrible. But, like, I think during that season, or like the first 4 games, they went 0-4, right? And who was the coach? Mike Brown. Like he was on the hot seat, and eventually he got fired, and everyone was like, we want Phil. We want Phil. Like we wanted Phil Jackson back. This general manager decides to go the other way and decides to get Mike D'Antoni, who
he's good now, but back then, not.
Yeah, he's good now, but like,
I think
it wasn't good for that. It wasn't good for that when Kobe was still hitting the mid range.
I think Mike D'Antoni just couldn't coach Dwight, even in the Rockets.
Like Mike D'Antoni couldn't coach Dwight. Kobe couldn't play with Dwight. That's it.
That's why Dwight Howard is Elijah's favorite player. He's so glad that he's back in the Lakers.
Yeah, I wanted him back. Take Dwight back in. But he's good now. I'm telling you, I think he's changed his ways. He's got rid of his ego and all that. That's just good. But back then, he was a dick. He just sucked. Like he was just complaining. Kobe was right. He was a bit soft. I don't think he was ready for the LA spotlight. Oh, hold on. Let me add Pat to this. Let's see if this works.
Oh, he's here? Oh, hello. We're live.
I don't know if you're in the recording button.
Say hi, Patrick.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Welcome, Patrick. I said at the start you won't come in, so what a surprise. see him at the
sorry.
back.
I'm just having. that's at my house, mate. No, I'm just having my breakfast now.
You're having your breakfast now. It's almost lunchtime, sir.
What's saying, bro?
Potatoes, potatoes.
We were just talking about best trios. We were going to talk about best duos to never win soon, but best trios to never win. Cloyd said, of course, the OKC Thunder with KD, Russ, and James.
I think that's number one.
Well, for his number one, that was his number one. I said my number one was probably Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin.
No, his number one was actually Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, and Steve Nash.
Yeah, man. They didn't even deserve to be number one because that's how bad they are.
But they're number one on the bad list.
Yeah, that's the only number one they'll get. What would be your? I know I'm putting you in the spot right now because you're eating breakfast. But what would be your number one trio that never won an NBA ring or even just underachieved?
Hold on one sec. I saved something somewhere.
He's unprepared.
I will just say that OKC was definitely like up there for me.
Yeah.
Westbrook, Durant, and Ibaka. Another honorable mention, or worth mentioning at least, is the Utah Jazz, John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Jeff Hornacek.
Even then, I count him as a
That's a duo. That's more
as a duo.
Come on, man. Jeff's pretty good, man.
They're being nice to Jeff Hornacek, man.
Yeah, but like,
Jeff's a beast.
Yeah, but Jeff Hornacek is like, he's like James Harden.
It's like Kobe. It's like Kobe and Shaq, and then you just add like Rick Fox or like Robert Horry or Derek Fisher. It's like, oh yeah, he's good. Like he's an integral part of the team, but he's not a big three.
I know Derek Fisher he should be considered at least big three, but you say Robert Horry.
So that means Jeff Hornacek is the same caliber then.
He's as good as Rick Fox. He's as good as Robert Horry.
Yeah.
Talking of which, Robert Horry is actually the real GOAT. 11 championships.
Yeah, big shot ball. Yeah.
Wait, did you guys also
Yes.
This is crazy.
What did you say?
Repeat what you said, sir. Sir, you went.
What did you last? What was the last thing you heard?
He said, "Have you guys said?"
That's it. You were rubbing your eye too.
I said Steve Nash, Sean Marion, and Murray Stoudemire.
No, we haven't said that one yet. But that's a good one.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. There was a time in.
Yeah, you need to have Sean Marion with that a jump shot like that.
Look, he doesn't have the prettiest jump shot, but he definitely was pretty good in his prime.
I just don't like. I don't get how you shoot like that and you're fine with that.
You know what it's like? As if you're like tossing it from halfway and you're just trying to shoot it in.
It's like a shot put.
No, it's like a chest pass.
Okay.
But putting some angle on that thing.
What if all this time Sean Marion is actually just trying to lob the Mario? Oh, whoops!
It's really a Coach Norman chest pass. It was so flat as well, eh? When you see it, it's just like it just goes like that. It wasn't like
I just don't imagine how you have that shot and you're like, okay, I'm fine with that. Like Lonzo, he's changed his shot a bit and it's gotten better.
But I like Lonzo's shot. That was nice.
No projection there.
Yeah, there was exactly. It was just like I'm not a shooter. That's it. But at the time, yeah, I guess at the time, shooting wasn't I guess a big deal breaker.
It was. I think they were just exiting the time of like centers, and they were entering also a time where they were going through shooting guards and guards who are scoring more points.
That's true. But yeah, they did. I think they did underachieve, especially. But think about it, like the West was very competitive, like with the Spurs and all that. The Mavericks are pretty good. Yeah, it was just. I think it was just tough. And like, I'm not sure if he was there at the time, or if this happened at the time. But I think they lost to the Lakers, who just had like Kobe and like Smush Parker and stuff like that. Or I don't know if they lost, but anyway.
I think that was also during the reign of the Nuggets as well.
Yeah.
Like back when they were dominating during the regular season.
Yeah, and that they had Mike D'Antoni at that time, so it was like, I don't know. I think maybe in some way it was ahead of its time, you could say, with the offense.
The system.
Yeah, with the system and like with all the rules and all that. I think, yeah, it was a bit ahead of its time. People were still a bit physical. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I think the rules and the way the game was played at that time was really affected in how they won, possibly.
Yeah, that's true.
Possibly.
But yeah, I think they were just worth mentioning as well.
No, 100%.
Yeah. No, I think OKC will have to do it for me. You had like the dynamic duos and Serge Ibaka, like at the time, and he's still like regarded as like a great defensive player, who can spread the floor, and his interior finishing was pretty good as well. Like, yeah, KD, who's like one of the best scorers, like in any way. And you had Westbrook. He had this athleticism, and
Please stop hurting Cloyd's feelings.
You know what? I'm gonna say another one. It's gonna hurt
Patrick, we've already mentioned this. Cloyd mentioned it himself.
All right, let's go. Derrick Rose.
I thought everyone has to have a turn. Like, remember the Lakers? Remember how we did
Jimmy Butler.
That's a big. That's a big three. That's actually I changed my answer.
I forgot about that big three. Damn.
I only thought of it because I was looking at Patrick and he was hurting my feelings.
Get him back.
Let's go. Derrick Rose.
That's all right. I'm ready. I've already accepted that. Like, I've been traded like 20 times after the Bulls.
Have you realized when Derrick Rose? Okay, we're going off topic here. Have you realized that when Derrick Rose was in the Bulls, everyone was wearing like Bulls snapbacks and stuff, and then as soon as Derrick Rose injured himself and it became one of the worst teams ever, like no one started wearing Chicago Bulls attire. And then now the Last Dance is back. Everyone's wearing Chicago Bulls attire.
Yeah, he definitely brought back like the I guess they would call it the swagger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, you gotta admit, like, when you, because I used to have that Chicago Bulls snapback back in those days. I was like, man, I could rock this with anything because it's like black and red. It's bread. Yeah. But it's not like you can wear like black and green or black and yellow everywhere kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. I think, because Derrick Rose is such a big figure in Chicago, he was sort of like carrying the torch or like relighting the torch that MJ had when he was in Chicago. So that's why everyone started to, wear not only Bulls gear, but like Bulls colored gear, like D Rose shoes or just any accessory that
Those
was black and
D-Rose
red.
shoes.
Yeah, it was just like associated to or inspired by D Rose, I guess. So yeah, he was a big inspiration when he was an MVP, and then he got injured, and then now he's a Detroit Piston.
And I think there's potential that he might be traded too.
Yeah, true.
Where?
Nothing confirmed, but there's like speculation that some teams might want him.
Yeah, the Lakers one.
Lakers.
Who would you change? Sorry, this is so off topic, but who would you, if you were making the decisions, EJ, who would you, what pieces would you move to get? Would you even want to get D Rose actually?
Alex Caruso.
No. We need Alex Caruso. That's
No, you don't.
Yeah, we do. Showtime.
Wow, that's disrespectful, bro.
Hey, what are you doing? The bold number. I don't know actually, because I don't know. I just put the shittest players on the team: Quinn Cook, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. That's me being biased.
Damn. Yeah, it's hard because I feel like you guys already have a pretty set team now.
Yeah, we gave up a lot of picks just to get Anthony Davis.
Gave up Lonzo.
We got Lonzo, gave up BI. I would say Kuz, and they will probably ask for Kuz for sure. But
You guys don't necessarily need Kuzma, but
yeah, but I like Kuz. I like
Lonzo.
I like Lonzo too. You know what? If they had Lonzo, we don't need D Rose. But I don't even think I don't think we need D Rose either. Because I guess we need some sort of scoring point guard. I mean, Rondo's not going to score from point guard. Caruso, even though he's flashy, he doesn't score as much. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we do need Derrick Rose, but
I feel like Rondo, as much as I love Derrick Rose, I think Rondo has improved shooting wise. Scoring wise.
Yeah, the only reason why D Rose is up in the air is in trade talks is because the Pistons are shit.
Yeah.
And Blake Griffin's not playing. I mean, even Blake Griffin's a bad rumors too, so they're like pretty much selling the team at this point. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a pretty crappy duo. They already traded Drummond, so who's next? So yeah. Anyway, we got a bit off topic. Speaking of, we'll switch it up. We'll do duos. Who's the biggest duo to never win?
To never win?
To ever win.
To never win.
That's never. Oh, sorry. KD and Ross.
Shut up! Yeah, you remember that scene in The Office when Gabe Lewis is interviewing Andy Bernard and he's like, "How big is the sun?" And he says it and he's like, "Shut up about the sun! Shut up about the sun!" That's me right now. Shut up about the OKC.
Okay, fine. Hold on, wait. If we're not counting as Hornacek a big three, then a great honorable mention is Post Malone. Post Malone and Jonathan Stockman.
Jonathan Stock. I thought you were gonna say Jonathan Aguilar. I was like, huh? Oh. What about you, EJ?
Honorable mention there.
Kobe and Dwight.
It's not. Hell no. I think it has to be Shaq and Penny. Shaq and Penny. Yeah. They were. I think I could compare them to what do you call it, Katie and Russ. Whereas as if they stayed together, I think they would have won at least one or two.
Yeah.
But is that definitive for you? Sorry, or you're just listing? You're just kind of naming out names first.
No, I think that's my biggest duo to never win. Because they were in the finals and at one point, and had they not choked those 4 free throws in that first game, like, I think they would have won. I think they would have had good momentum and possibly could have won that year, and have possibly the next year. But with all that, with that happening, I think it stopped momentum, and all these issues started to come up about
Yeah, and Penny was getting injured as well.
Yeah, Penny started getting injured. And, all these rumors about Shaq leaving LA, or just leaving for a bigger market, which was true. I think, for me, it had to be that. Yeah, they were a pretty dynamic duo. Shaq as athletic as he was, Penny, who was possibly the next MJ Magic, with his
because he was 6'9", wasn't he? And he was
with his size as point guard. He was the next Magic for sure.
He was so athletic as well, far out. I remember all those layups he was doing.
He was crazy, and it just didn't pan out the way it was supposed to happen. Got to be them.
That's a good one.
Good.
For me, it'd be again, it hits home because this was the first jersey I ever got. T-Mac and Yao. That hurts. But it was just because the thing is, even though they did stay together for quite a while, I think their age just started to come with them. Like when T-Mac was in his prime, he ended up getting injured. And then after he came back from injury from the ACL, it just didn't come back. And then Yao was coming towards the end of his career because he was made in the 90s kind of thing. Was he 90s? No, 2000s, 2001. Jacks, yeah. But he was playing in the 90s in China. So as his career was coming to an end, so it was like that whole Rockets franchise kind of thing, where T-Mac was going, and Yao was going, and they had like all these good players as well. Like they had Rafer Alston. He was a great point guard. He's also one of the best playground players. But then, as I said, because of that ACL injury that T-Mac had, he just never came back from it.
Yeah, that's true. And especially with Yao Ming, like he was silky smooth, man. Like it would have been so nice for him to win a championship.
Yeah, that would have been good for the Asian community.
But we just left it to Jay Lin. We just left it for Jay Lin to win.
Hey, he won, didn't he?
He won though. Yeah, he won.
10 minutes in the finals, and that's it.
He contributed. He was there. He showed up. That's half. That's half the job done. So Pat said, Post Malone and John Stockton. I said Penny and Shaq. You said T-Mac and Yao. I agree with those as well. Speaking of duos, we'll move it on. And since The Last Dance has been on these past couple of weeks, I want to ask you guys, which current day superstar would pair up nicely with MJ?
Current superstar.
Current superstar right now.
Kawhi.
I need to rephrase my question because I'm going to put Kawhi out of that question because how similar he plays or how similar he is to Scottie. So take a Kawhi. I think Kawhi is probably the best one. because in terms of similarity to Scottie Pippen.
Even like I think mannerism, not mannerism, like attitude wise too.
Yeah,
like he just does it.
Yeah, that's why I think it's a given that it's going to be a good partnership because I think either way, while he wants to be a number one, like him and Jordan would have a pretty nice relationship. And he would just be like the defensive stopper of that team.
Who can score as well.
Jason Tatum.
You being serious or you just being biased?
No, I'm being serious. Because Jason Tatum isn't at his prime yet. If we're talking about now, I'd say Jason Tatum. Because he's not at his prime yet, but he's great enough to be going to his prime, right? Second point is he's still following veterans. You get what I mean? So if his current skill now joined with Michael Jordan, if he was going to be following Michael Jordan, he'd be like Scottie, where he had that same mentality to be as good. He'd be working harder and harder. And I think that's what, like with Scottie, he was a great player, but if you take out Michael Jordan, he wouldn't be as great because Michael Jordan was what drove him to be a better player. So with Jason Tatum, I'm saying that because he's a great player, but he needs someone to drive him to be a better player.
Okay, how about we put it as not someone as who can drive them, just like someone now who's just like a really good fit.
Because I wouldn't say, okay, don't get mad. I wouldn't say that Jason Tatum is a superstar yet.
Yeah.
I say he's a star.
100%.
He's an all-star for sure. But superstar, not yet.
Because I get what you mean, but like as he is young now, if he continues to play with Jordan, then he's still got that young mindset where he's got to make sure that he's got to follow Jordan. And then as he's following Jordan, he becomes a greater player. So that's the only reason why I say it. But if we're going to say like someone who's got that kind of skill, I'd say Giannis. If you have Giannis and Jordan, like both of them know how to post up properly. One of them is very tall and strong. They're both fast, and I guess like they just be. I don't know. That's me saying that they do well. I don't know if they'd be compatible, but they do well.
All right, let me narrow it down for you then. Who would be the better teammate, LeBron or KD?
LeBron. I'd say LeBron. Yeah.
Pat?
I might go with KD actually.
What are your cases?
Because I want to say KD because you go first, Pat. Sorry.
No. You go. You already started.
I want to say KD, but both of them are pure scorers, and I feel like they're going to butt heads together. But with LeBron, he's not just a pure scorer. He's a point forward. So he can adapt to any other player in the team.
The only reason why I don't put even though he's not current day, even though the reason why I don't put Kobe in there is because, again, he's Kobe and Jordan are pretty much the same thing. So it's like, I think we all know that it's not going to work. Or, I mean, it might work, but like, it's, it is what it is, it's just like twins pretty much. What's your case for KD?
Well, I think for starters, KD knows how to play without the ball, and he's like shown that when he moved to Golden State, that he can still be just as effective off ball. And yes, he is a main scorer, like a pure scorer. But again, you see in Golden State, if you're able to work with him correctly, he will adjust as well. Like he became better defensively, he became a better facilitator, and he's just doing what it takes to become an overall player. And I love. I think Cade is probably reliable in a scoring sense when it comes down to the wire making. And I'm again not disregarding LeBron's decision making, but I think KD, when you need him to like just switch on, like don't worry about being so calculating about everything. I think KD would be a good guy to have with Jordan on the same floor. And again, like defensively as well, I think KD's improved so much since he moved to Golden State. I think, that I think his defense is pretty underrated still. So that's why I think he might be better. And I think maybe if we look at intrinsic values, KD is like a hard guy. Like he doesn't back down to anyone. So you have that kind of guy as well, and you rally that with Jordan. I think that would be like very contagious for the whole team as well.
Okay, interesting.
I feel like LeBron and Michael Jordan would bump heads even more, I reckon, because LeBron has a different kind of leadership style. Like LeBron's he's a bit more passive, whereas Jordan's like up in your face, and KD will be up in your face too. I feel like that would be a clash of personalities there. I feel like, and that would be detrimental to the team overall. And yeah, it might implode like the Kyrie thing, like something like that.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with any one of you. I think both answers are correct, and have their points. KD would. I think, in terms, if I were to say both, KD and MJ in terms of, I think KD paired up with a volume scorer, rather than someone who was mainly a slasher type build. I think when you have a volume scorer like Jordan, you can compare it to, like, I guess, having Steph, just a different play style. When you have that type of scorer who can pretty much score from anywhere, that opens up for KD, open things up for KD and also MJ, because KD is also a scorer as well. In terms of LeBron, I think, just having that point forward presence, and just being able to, I think, share the ball, not having the ball, all the time. I think maybe LeBron will be okay with that, depending on the moment. We'll see. But I think, LeBron as a point forward is also fine, and could also, I mean, think about it, like Pippen was basically the pioneer to a point forward. He was starting to become that point forward, especially when Jordan retired the first time. He was starting to become that leader, that person who was he was the first option in scoring, but he was the guy that mainly wanted to include everyone around the team, especially during the game. That was mentioned in The Last Dance. So I'm not comparing LeBron to Scottie in terms of greatness, because obviously LeBron is better than Scottie. But in terms of play style, I think it would be pretty good as well. I didn't give you an option because I didn't give you a chance to pick any superstar to pair up with MJ.
Wait, sorry. Did you choose? I like cut off. I like froze for like ages and then I got exited.
I didn't choose. I said I wasn't gonna.
He just brought his points up on both.
Yeah, I
sides.
wasn't gonna
okay.
disagree with any both of you because I don't think you lose, and I don't think there'd be much leeway as to which one is better. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think they both. I think they both will find their way to work with each other anyway, and I think it'll be like effective.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
But if you were to pick any superstar current day, who would it be? Or maybe just any superstar. Chloe, does that change things if it's any superstar?
Any superstar.
wait, so any like even past as well?
Let's
talking
narrow
about
it
recent.
down to maybe 2000s to now.
Probably say.
That's a lot of players.
Oh no! The only reason why I'm saying this guy is because actually, no. Okay, I was gonna say Shaq because Kobe is similar to Michael Jordan, but at the end of it, they butt heads. So, I mean, they'd still win the 3 championships, but they'd butt heads. You know what I mean? Oh no, that's hard.
No, wait, narrow it even more. I think that's still a lot.
Okay, let's do
That's
2010.
still a
Do
lot too.
2010s. 2010s.
I'd probably still say Giannis. I think, but if Giannis stayed more on the defensive, second-hand style of playing. Oh no, I can't think of
I have an
anyone.
interesting one, but I don't. I haven't built up the justification yet. I'm still building in my mind, but I put CP3 there.
I was hoping someone would bring up a point guard because I think a small forward is like what Jordan really needs. But why CP3?
Hold on, I'm building up to it. You guys.
I was gonna say in a way, I thought of a few options at point guard with CP3, Steph, Dame Lillard.
Stuff too.
I think you know how you're saying that you like CP3 is actually pretty good because CP3 is a good second option when Jordan gets trapped. Because if you think about it, you had Steve Kerr and you had what was his name in the first
Paxson.
3P? Yeah, John Paxson. Like if you look at both of them, they're quite similar in skill, except CP3 is just much better with court vision and IQ. So I agree with CP3. Like, I think that he would be a good fit because he's a good, reliable scorer if you need him. He's not going to be like the main scorer, but he's one that he can. CP3 can find if you put him in that team. CP3 would be good when they're running the triangle offense, for example. He knows how to move around with the ball and without the ball. And if it's just going to be the Jordan show, he's still going to be like, on that sideline or waiting for the pass for the 3.
Like, and like on top of what you're saying too, I think he's not only like reliable when it's crunch time offensively, but he's proven to be reliable during offensive times too. Defensive. Sorry, defensive end as well. And so you kind of need that guy to be able to do that. Even he's a short guard, he's still able to perform at that kind of level. And I think he'll be able to provide that second co-captain leadership. Because I feel like he kind of did that anyway with Harden. Like he let Harden run the show still, but he was still that voice. He was still that voice that people still like listen to.
Because, on top of what Pat was saying, when he was with Harden, I think a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's never going to work out because it's 2 point guards and stuff." But he
That was me as well.
Yeah, like what Pat said. When he joined OKC, when he joined Houston Rockets, he still let James Harden run the show.
OKC in his mind.
I walk this lonely road.
But I thought of Curry as well, because I think Curry's ability to help space out the floor will help Jordan tremendously as well. Like, players that would be respecting Curry's range, that would just open more possibilities for Jordan.
I think the only reason why I would also pick CP3 over Steph is because I think Steph is better off the dribble in terms of shooting rather than spotting up. And that's why I think CP3 is a better compatible partner to Jordan, because he doesn't really need the ball to create his own shot. He can spot up shoot as well. I think he is better to do spot up shooting from 3 rather than off dribble from 3. I like Steph Curry there. Don't get me wrong, it'll be pretty interesting, and I think you wouldn't lose much there, of course. But CP3 is a good option too.
Yeah, I thought of it as like, hold on, just let me build up my cases first.
Yeah, interesting. I would also put Dame Lillard there too, just as another, because he's also like to me, Dame Lillard is like a smaller KD in my opinion.
Now that you mentioned it, what about, if you think about it, what about CJ McCollum? Because he's a reliable second man player, you know what I mean?
Yeah, possibly. But I
don't think he's
CJ McCollum, I think a mid-range.
And
that's
who's a good reliable second? Kyle Lowry.
Oh man, that's why I said Kyle Lowry, because I knew that was a given, bro. I knew that was a given. I'm like, Kyle Lowry, man, that's 6 straight championships right there.
Patrick was thinking it. I was just saying it.
Wait, bro, if Jordan and Larry put together, imagine Jordan how like he would drive drive Larry to come better. Oh my gosh, Larry will be MVP over Jordan. Jordan and that fat ass.
Man, you can't.
What's your argument? What's your argument, sir?
Nah, I'm not arguing. I was just gonna say, you can't trigger me about Derrick Rose or how the Bulls are going now, but you can trigger me with that one name. That one name.
Kyle Lowry. Oh man, I think it's guaranteed. So Kyle Lowry, best duo to match up with Jordan. Anyone else, or is Kyle Lowry the
So should we look at bigs now?
Yeah, I was gonna look. Yeah, we can go bigs.
Did it. That was a good segue, Pat.
Good save.
Yeah, like it could be like a 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say Giannis still.
Yeah, I'm not mad at Cloyd's pick.
But let me say Giannis, because like, if we were playing the Detroit Bad Boys, Giannis would just kill them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but so
Like,
would Detroit because they just push it to the ground.
yeah, but bro, Giannis is built like he's fast enough to just throw an elbow out as he's going, like taking his gather. Bro, they would Bill, what's his name? Bill Laimbeer or something?
Yeah.
He'd just be like teeth out bleeding. He's the Greek freak.
The brow?
That came across my mind, yeah.
Who? Sorry?
The brow.
Oh, AD.
I actually don't know. Because whenever I think of a big, I always lean towards someone who was like a Horace Grant or a Dennis Rodman, but you don't have those type of players anymore in this, or who is a superstar in this.
Joel Embiid. Not the best, but
it's so tough.
he's second to Simmons, you know. And so I was just thinking about it. He'd be second to Jordan. He's a reliable center, I guess. He can shoot the three. He's a good post up, and he's strong in the paint.
Yeah, it's a good option for sure.
It's hard to think of a center, but like in these days, you can't really think of.
It's because it's very different eras, and it's like it's sort of, I don't know, the bigs in that era, and I don't know. Like here's the thing, like the bigs in that era were very different, right? But the bigs that Jordan had, you know, they weren't. I don't think they really were post players or, really high volume scorers. They were like rebounders and you know, drop a pass scorers. Yeah, and I don't really, I can't really imagine seeing a superstar big. Ooh, actually. Jokic.
Like even as we speak, I can't even think of the best center right now because they're all good. Like the best centers are good, but they have their own play style.
What about Jokic?
But not one of.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'd be good because he can see he's like a point center.
Yeah. Everyone. It's like with guards, you can compare someone with someone else in today's era, in a way. Like, oh yeah, Steph Curry, you know, Dame Lillard has some characteristics, some similarities with Steph Curry in terms of off dribbles, you know, limitless range, stuff like that. But man, some bigs in this era, they have their own specialty. You know, Cat with his, I guess, I don't know what Cat is. Cat's. Yeah, what does Cat do? I think Cat with his shooting is pretty good. Joel Embiid with his low post presence and his defense. I don't know who Cat. Jokic with his passing ability.
Embiid with his post up.
Yeah.
What about Clint Capella?
Oh yeah, that's a pretty good one.
He can set the screen. He's pretty good at pick and rolls, and the lobs is pretty. He's decent with it.
So would you say
he's going to be more? Sorry.
Would you say Blake Griffin as well?
Yeah, but I'd rather, as a center wise, I'd rather have Clint Capella over Blake Griffin.
Wait, is this still the 2010s?
Yeah.
It's what we narrow it to.
Yeah.
Would you?
Don't count Tim Duncan.
Oh, what about?
Damn it!
What about?
Why?
His name? Steven Adams. The Moori brick wall.
Yeah, I think in terms of like Jordan's game, it would be nice. Because he's Steven Adams.
Steven Adams.
Yeah.
Steven Adams.
The best center, the best stretch five ever.
I think it'd be nice. I think it'd be nice, but I don't know about you, Cloyd, but I don't think he's a superstar.
Oh no, he's not a superstar. He's a good support player.
Yeah.
He's like the best support player.
Yeah.
But like the only reason I think about it is because what kind of center can catch his own rebound off a free throw and easily just turn around 360 or 180, no scope pass to Russell Westbrook.
All right, I'm probably cheating a bit here, but what about Pau Gasol?
Cheating, boo.
I wouldn't count Pau Gasol in the 2010s either.
He's not 2010s.
What?
That's like Tim Duncan, bro. It's like as soon as the 2010s started. Nah.
Yeah.
Miami beat Spurs in 2012 or 13. That's when Tim Duncan was
but that was Kawhi Leonard.
That was Kawhi Leonard.
Nah, trust me. Tim Duncan
Kawhi Leonard
was
won
beasting
Finals
still. Yeah, but
he stopped LeBron.
It wasn't just Kawhi. He just 1v5 everywhere.
Of course, but
Tim Duncan
you
was
can't
there
say
too.
Tim Duncan was the main reason they.
It was already ending his career by that.
But you're like just asking, is Tim Duncan going to be the main guy with Jordan?
No, what I'm saying is, in terms of like we both.
But would you would you rather have 2000s Tim Duncan or 2010 Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan was not in his prime in the 2010s. Neither was Paul Gasol.
Yeah.
Haters.
The 2010s, big in their prime.
Like LeBron wasn't in his prime in the 2000s. He was in his prime in the 2010s.
Joakim Noah. Let's go.
You mean gym class heroes?
Nah, okay. All right, if I'm being serious, maybe Serge Ibaka.
Ooh. Yeah.
Maybe Serge Ibaka.
Yeah. Oh, what about... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to put up my reasons.
Yeah,
I think, firstly, in his prime, great rim protector. Even to this day, he's still really good. I put him up there as still one of the high defensive caliber players in the paint. He's a pretty good rebounder too. And he just provides that second, third scoring option as well. Like he can spread out the floor. I don't think he needs to score inside as much, but he can be there as a second or third option. I think just listing out just that stuff, and I don't know. I feel like attitude-wise, I don't think it's much of a intrinsic. I think there's like a compatibility issue as well.
Nice pick. It's a nice pick. Interesting.
I was gonna say either Kevin Love or Dirk.
Ooh, Kevin Love. Nah, I don't put Dirk there. That's another. Nah.
Didn't he win in like 2013?
He wasn't in his prime. It wasn't in his prime.
This guy. This guy's hating on everyone.
Hater.
He's in the 2000.
Hater.
You told me to narrow it down, and I narrowed it down, and you went 2000.
We got employed.
Make up your
Ladies and
mind.
gents, we got him. But yeah, I was saying
like
Kevin
Kevin
Love
Love.
because he can get the rebounds. He's a good center. He can play center as well, but he's a power forward, obviously. But he's a great stretch four.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I'm thinking about this is because of Tony Kukoc.
Interesting. Yeah. That's what you mean. I see what you mean. So
They're both white. If it's the criteria.
Racist.
Yeah, this is racist, bro.
You can't be racist. I've got black shoes on.
It's very interesting topic in terms of I don't know. In bigs, it was the bigs for Jordan were basically like the third best player in that team. Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman. So it was very, very hard to pick a big that would be a number two because we've never seen them before. So yeah. All right, let's finish it up with the last topic. It shouldn't take long. Maybe, I don't know. Depends on what you guys might say. But we're in quarantine. Sports has been, been MIA for a while, and there has been discussions that in 2 to 4 weeks' time they will consider whether they will continue the NBA season, maybe just start the playoffs, or just cancel the season and move on to the next year, which would be the 2020 to 2021 NBA season. What do you guys think? Should we continue the season? Maybe play a couple more games and then playoffs, or should we just postpone it, just cancel it and move on to next season?
That's a hard one. Because part of me wants to say sort of continue off the season, but shorten the number of games.
Yeah.
Because you've got the only reason why I say that is because you got a couple of teams who are in the 8th, 9th, and 10th seed who could possibly make the 8th seed and then make the playoffs. But obviously it's going to be too late depending on how short they make the games. It's going to affect everything else in the long run, where in the off season when management have to make decisions and whatnot. So part of me wants to say go straight into the playoffs. A part of me also wants to say shorten the game, the seasons, just so that people can have a chance. Because if you think about it, if they say each team has 10 games to prove themselves, kind of thing, so that's going to be roughly, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, and then they go into playoff mode, and then that leaves 1 month for their summertime thing. If they do the 10 games and they know they only have 10 games, then that's up to the team on how they should battle it out. But if we go straight into the season, then at least we get to go straight into the next season. What the?
Why is it 2?
Whoa.
Hold up.
Was it because it still thinks it still registered that I'm still in the other one? Because I changed my internet.
Okay,
there you go. But yeah, that's what I think. It's either one of the two. Preferably, I go straight into the playoffs, even though it would be it would still be late. But at least we get to they get to, management gets to take their time in the off season, because this off season is a big thing. Like you can't just rush that off season and just be like, oh yeah, we got to make this change, we got to make that change. No, it's got to be more than that.
Patrick?
I agree with Cloyd. Like, although it sucks, we couldn't finish a whole regular season. I think during just at this time, I think it's just appropriate, and it's probably more practical that we just head into the playoffs if it resumes, and I think it should resume sometime later this year, especially with things improving. But I think it would just have to be straight into the playoffs, and we look at players already top 8, so the top teams that make the top 8. It sucks for the other teams, but I think it seems the most feasible thing at the moment.
Would you cancel the season?
No,
Nah,
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I think there is something you could still make out of it, and if you look at the top teams from each conference, I think yes, there is a bit of there's definitely would have been there could be a difference made if they continued. But again, I think it's just the top 8. It's kind of already made their statement and where they're at in the conference, and I think they deserve a chance at still having the league to resume and ultimately the playoffs and a chance to win a championship.
Like, even if they decided to change the playoffs to a best of 5 series, where they do one at home, and then the next game 2 is going to be one in the way, and then the alternate, then yes, I'd be like, okay, I'd go with it. It's going to be a bit unfair, and also on top of that, it's going to be very tiring for the team. But if you do a best of 7 series, I don't know. I feel like it also depends on how management wants to deal with it. Either they sort of shorten the regular season and go playoffs for best of 7, and then next season, instead of making it 82 games, they make it like 70 games or something like that. It's got to sort of see if they want to make the next season a normal season, or if they just want to shorten that one so it can coincide with this season.
And
You cutting out, bro.
Oh no. What was the last thing I said?
You said the last 2 words I heard was "and like."
That doesn't help. No, I was just saying how I think you resume it, right? And a lot of people think it's unfair. And again, I'm really stressing it because it's probably going to be the main arguments that it's not fair because that time, that time that they could have played would have made a big difference in their standings and advantages, or home advantages and stuff like that. But I think if you look at it, just a business, and
sorry, cutting out.
Yeah.
Man, I'm really digging deep for this one too. But I think, I think what I was saying before is I think if you look at it from a business, if you looking at it from a business standpoint and a competitive, just competition league standpoint, I think you just need to let it play out. You need to let it progress because you're not allowing these teams to have teams and players have the opportunity to prove what they were capable of that season. And yes, it might be shorter than what it normally, the norm of it. but I think needs to Oh man, I just hear you guys laughing and I'm like, I'm just gonna stop talking.
All right, yeah, you're back. You good? Oh, all right, you're back. You're back. Continue.
All right, ultimately, I think they just need to, and players should be able to understand and adapt to what's going to happen next. As a normal competitive environment, players need to adapt to what's happening, even if it's completely out of their control. For example, like injuries, they need to understand what's out of their control and see what they can do to.
He was so close. So close to finishing. I was like, oh, it was so close. So close. Yet so far. What were you saying? The last part?
I have no idea anymore.
Oh.
This internet keeps killing me.
Okay.
No,
Well, yeah,
I'm
I guess
I'm out. You guys go.
I guess I do agree with you guys that from a competitive and from a business point of view, the NBA going back to continue like a shortened season, or just to finish off the regular season, and then maybe have a shortened playoffs, will be good for not only the sport itself, but business wise and competitiveness. But oh man, I don't know. As much as I want the Lakers to have a chance to be in the playoffs and to win a championship, I think there's so many things that come into place, or so many things you have to consider when starting up the season. First off, you got to think about player health. These guys haven't not just. I mean, yeah, they've probably been working out, but in terms of skill, like they haven't really, practiced basketball like a 5-on-5 or a 3v3. They haven't really gone through the motions for so long, and so that'll be worrying in terms of how these guys are going to play. What's the quality of play going to be like? It's going to be a bit rusty, and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess again, player health. People are mainly just going to be stuck at home, doing nothing all day. So that's one thing. Second, how are you gonna construct it so that, again, yeah, teams that were fringe playoff teams, have the opportunity to win, to make it into the top 8 of the conference, and that again goes back into player health and safety and stuff like that. You don't want these guys to be exposed, and to to contract coronavirus. And then thirdly, you're most likely going to be playing in front of an empty arena. And so how does that affect your marketing? I mean, yeah, you still have cameramen and you can broadcast it for sure, but it's not going to be the same. The quality, I think we can all agree that playoff crowds in the NBA are, some of the most energetic, and for that to not be present in the playoffs can be a bit worrying in terms of marketing and business. and in terms of ratings, even though the best players are still there, I'm worried that it might not be as entertaining as it should be. So ultimately, what do I think? As much as I want to, I think maybe it's such a. I think the other reason is if you have a season right now where you still have the playoffs, and don't get me wrong, the playoffs would have ended. I think either now or maybe a couple of weeks ago, the finals would have finished. If we have the playoffs now and we push it to June or July, that means another 6 or so weeks in the playoffs, or even then, 3 weeks for regular season and then 6 weeks for more playoffs. That'll push it to September, right? And then usually when the season starts is October, so that gives them less than a month. So you gotta. It's not just the schedule for this season, but for the next season. Ultimately, there's so much to consider. I think and as much as a NBA fan, I could be committing blasphemy here, but I don't know. I think they should be canceling the season and just prepare for the next season, because there's so much to consider in such little amount of time. And when you have such little time, I think the success of it happening is not gonna. It just dwindles. So I don't know. I think I'll go against you guys, and I'll say that they'll cancel the season. They should cancel the season. Move on to the next one. I know, as a Laker fan, yeah, it's the first time we've been to the playoffs in a while, but it's all good. It's fine. Next season.
I think if you think of it though, as like that the players themselves want to. What if the players themselves want to keep on resuming the season?
Yeah.
And I think also if we look at the development of technology as well as a whole, I think if you actually look at it, we're probably moving into a time where maybe watching sports online is probably going to be one of the main ways, or probably might lead to the only way. So this might even be an opportunity for sport leagues to have that. And I know it's not the same thing, right? And it definitely will never encapsulate the whole experience. But I think we are kind of moving in that direction technology-wise in the influence it has on sports. So that's why I think it's interesting, and I think it might work. And also it might work because people are so they're pretty hungry to consume anything right now. I feel like if sports came back, everyone would probably jump on that wagon, and I think they would make a lot of money.
That's true. That's why in here, I think the NRL rugby league is doing that, trying to get ahead of the game and trying to market themselves as being the first sport to really come back. But yeah, there's so much to consider in such a little time, and it's such a crucial part of the season. It's tough to see where they go. So we'll see in the next 2 to 3 weeks what they'll decide and how the format's going to go. Anyway, that pretty much does it from us. This is our first Zoom recording, not a live stream, but a Zoom recording. And so I hope you guys are staying safe during this quarantine. I know restrictions are easing, and so soon we'll be doing, face-to-face recording at some point, which is exciting. And it'll be good to go back to our main ways. But on that, last dances. Well, at this point in time, the last 2 episodes would have been out already. So go ahead and watch those last 2, or even the last 10, because there are 10 episodes. And yeah, tune into that. Thank you, Pat, for joining in midway, coming through. Thank you, Cloyd, for crying about Katie, Russ, and James. And on a final note, Kyle Lowry and MJ, the best duo in the NBA. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I don't have Corona, sorry. Facebook. Instagram. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we're on there. Go ahead and message us. Tell us any ideas you want us to talk about. We can talk about anything. Trust me. And we're also on YouTube. So find us there. Say hi to us. And we will see you very soon. Take us away, Cloyd.
So subscribe if you're new. Join the crew. You already know what to do.
Laters.
Cheers.
Peace.